Merci, Clara. J'ai oublié mon français. But actually, one of the most exciting things about AI, it crushes languages, as you probably know. And I think the transformer, as it was developed at Google, I think that was the original use case, was translation. And that's actually been one of the coolest things we've done in the past year at G2. G2 is now available in French, German, and I'm originally from Germany. And like Clara, I'm a dual citizen. Also in the past year, I actually became an American citizen. And I still have a German passport. And not to make a bad joke, but right now I'm kind of glad I have a hedge. But I think what is amazing about AI, like I said, G2 is now, and we actually use G2, we use AI auto translation with ChatGPT. And it's not perfect, but it's amazingly good. So now we have, thanks to AI, we have G2 available in English, of course, French, German, Spanish, Portuguese. And honestly, our team has said we can kind of go to N+1 languages. And so that's just one of the, I think, really exciting things about AI. And I also wanted to learn a little bit more about you. So I'm just curious, first of all, how many of you were here last year at the ChargeBee event? Okay, a few of you, because I did present last year, so this may be more boring for you. But the good news with AI, a lot has changed in our industry in the past year, and that's what I want to talk about. And I'm also curious, how many of you are from the enterprise software, SaaS, or maybe now enterprise AI industry? Okay, it seems like over half of you, and that's good. That's certainly our focus. At G2, we are the leading software marketplace where software buyers come to discover the best software apps. And I think one of the unique things we introduced about a decade ago is the idea of peer reviews for software. And then we also help software buyers connect with software sellers. And so we also serve about 4,000 software companies to help them connect in real time to buyers that are in the market for their type of solution. And so G2, we gather a lot of data about software based on software reviews. There's about 180,000 different software products and related services now listed on G2. We have millions of reviews. And we also do a lot of surveying of buyers. We also see how they're engaging on G2 with different products. And so what I wanted to share today was how is AI changing the software industry and changing how software buyers and sellers connect. And a little bit more about me. So I've been a SaaS entrepreneur now for 25 years, a long time. And over that time, I've been involved with starting 6 different companies, 3 as CEO, the other 3 as kind of co-founding executive chairman. And my day job is running G2. And we became a unicorn in 2021, although back then everyone was becoming a unicorn. So I think now that's just a higher bar to clear for our investors. And I'm also involved in 3 CPQ companies. And ChargeBee, as you heard, that's part of the ChargeBee platform now is CPQ. But we built a company called Big Machines that became Oracle CPQ. Another one, SteelBrick, that became Salesforce CPQ and Revenue Cloud. And actually, while I was at SteelBrick, we also acquired a billing company called InvoiceIt that also became part of the Salesforce Revenue Cloud. And Logic.ai, and you might have seen just last week, and I was executive chairman there, but my co-founder, Chris Schutz, was the CEO. He was also my Big Machines co-founder, and that company was just announced last week, being acquired by ServiceNow. So spent also a long time in CPQ, and obviously billing, and so I know all those pains and challenges. In some ways, I'm glad I'm no longer that market. It's actually very tough to automate those processes and to adapt pricing and probably all the things you're doing with ChargeBee. And so I'm really excited to be here with the team because I think also Chris and team are building truly a next generation solution to those problems. And when I'm not working, I do have, during the pandemic, my family and I, we moved to Colorado. So we love mountains. We became more hybrid and remote. And so when I'm not working, I do love being in the outdoors with our kids and my wife. And so that's enough about me. And we started G2 with the idea of consumerizing B2B software buying and being a software entrepreneur for 25 years. Spent a lot of time selling software, also buying software, but I think what we always saw was a process for buying and selling enterprise software is very inefficient. And especially, I remember my first company, Big Machines, We were a CPQ company, but very focused on manufacturers that made big machines. And eventually we sold companies like GE Energy, and they make massive steam turbines, truly big machines. And I remember it took us, I think, 9 years to convince them to become a customer. So 9-year sales cycle, that was quite painful. And I remember once we discovered them and they bought our software, they're like, oh, we wish we'd known about this 3 years ago. We didn't even know a solution like yours existed. And so we saw there was a big problem for software buyers like GE and certainly small companies to discover the right apps. And when we started G2 about 10 years ago, that was also when Mark Andreessen said, software is eating the world. And I think by that, he meant that there's going to be purpose-built apps built for every vertical, every business problem. And I think now AI is an extension of that, where there's now an agent being built to automate every use case in every industry, in every department. And so we also thought that the world needed a more consumer-like site that would make it more like shopping on Amazon. And also when we started G2, there were no peer reviews for software. So we also called it a Yelp for software. And because we thought it was odd in our industry that it was still primarily relying on legacy analysts, let's say Magic Quadrants from Gartner, but we always thought it was odd. It was kind of like a restaurant critic that couldn't eat the food. And our Gartner analysts would ask us for 5 references. We'd give it to them. They'd talk to them. How do you like their CPQ software? But we said, hey, why not ask the people eating the food, AKA the users, the customers of the software? And so that was a founding idea. And we did want to eliminate the magic in the quadrant and make it all user and peer-based and use that data to recommend the best software. And since we started the company, we have made a lot of good progress. So we have become the #1 site enterprise software buyers go to discover software apps. We have a global audience. We have over 3 million trusted reviews now. About 100 million software buyers a year come to G2 to discover, research different software apps. And we're also excited to be working with 3,600 customers, many of the world's leading software companies. And we have built a real business. We're also profitable and free cash flow positive now. But we need to adapt to this age of AI. And part of the reason I'm really excited to be here, ChargeBee and Krish, as you know, they have many happy customers, including many of you. And as a result of their 863 excellent reviews, they are now a leader in 3 different categories on G2. And also we're named one of the top 50 software products on G2. And there are over 180,000 listings on G2, and so it does really speak to the high level of customer satisfaction they're delivering. And like I said, I know CPQ and billing software are really hard. And so to be able to deliver this customer success is really a testament to the company that Krish and team have been building. But since we started G2, and especially in the last couple of years in this age of AI, software buying is changing dramatically. And so I wanted to share some of the key trends that we're seeing and how software buyers are engaging with software vendors in a different way now. And first, I think this is a trend that's been going on for a long time. There's more and more self-serve buying, so this consumerization of software is happening. And we do a buyer survey every year where we survey a couple thousand enterprise software buyers. And I think what was reported in the last year, 69% of buyers only approach a salesperson after they've already made the purchase decision. And I think that's probably true when we're shopping for software. We avoid filling in that lead form, most of us, right? Because we know what's going to happen. It's not a bad thing, but you're not ready yet to be overwhelmed by BDR and sales calls. And so most of us now tend to shop quietly, and 69% actually make a decision, and that's up before they even talk to a salesperson, and that's up 2% from the prior year. And I think this trend is just going to continue. Also, short lists are shrinking because people are doing more online research. Now they're also going to LLMs, but they're getting smarter and smarter on their own. And so the short list of vendors they will actually engage with is also shrinking. And our last survey said 49% have just 1 to 3 on the short list, which is up from 33% the prior year. And again, this shows buyers are going more and more self-serve, and they're really narrowing the field before they even have conversations with any vendor. And no surprise, buyers expect faster ROI. This has been especially true post the ZIRP, the zero interest rate bubble that we had in 2021. Back then, money was flowing freely. That was also great for G2 and everyone. But since then, now that money is expensive again, I think buyers expect to see more and more ROI. And I think with AI, those expectations are only rising. And, but I think we found 78% of buyers now expect an ROI in 6 months, which means if you're selling software or technical solutions, you really have to make sure the customer is getting ROI right away. And because of these tightening budgets, and over the last couple of years, companies have had to shift to more profitability. Now it's all about Rule of 40, not just growth. And that means the C-suite is, and especially the CFO, any significant purchase, they have a veto right. And, and I think this is also up where 42% of purchases are now saying, hey, it has to get final C-suite approval and decision, which is up from 30%. So overall, I think it's a tougher if you're selling software, it's a tougher environment. And AI is now disrupting and accelerating many of these changes. And I've lived through many transformations. Now I mentioned I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. I'm 53 years old. And so I remember that ChatGPT moment, obviously the most, November 2022, we probably all remember when we first tried ChatGPT and like, wow, this is amazing. I can just ask it any question and it's got a pretty good answer. It's incredible. But I remember when I was a kid, this is actually me as a kid in Germany, but I remember my father ran a small pump manufacturing company. I remember visiting him in the office, probably like 1978, and he had these big memory plates, and he was really proud he had his first mainframe. And I'm sure it had less power than my iPhone today, but just to do their basic accounting. And then I remember when I was in high school, I got my first Apple IIe, my first PC, and it was kind of great because I didn't have to write my papers anymore. I could use the floppy disk to word processor to write my papers. And then I remember when I had my first job, I was a McKinsey consultant after going to school at MIT. But I remember I was I think a business analyst in like 1995, and I discovered the Netscape browser. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And it made me seem much smarter, where I could just look stuff up online on Netscape. And for about a year or two, our clients thought I was really smart, but I was just early in adopting the internet. And then I remember, there was a big .com boom. Actually, when I started my first company, Big Machines in 2000, it was kind of like this AI era, except even crazier. And I remember I was in San Francisco in 1999, and for a while it seemed like everyone was getting funded and this incredible boom. And of course, it turned into a big bust. I also remember in 2001, you could drive from here in San Francisco to San Jose and like literally hit no traffic ever because everyone left after the bust. But I think that premise of .com, in hindsight, all the ideas were good ideas, and obviously companies like Amazon that survived did really change the world, where we do now buy everything online. And then I remember the next wave, as we were building our company, Big Machines, and then Steelbrick, partnering with companies like Salesforce, building on AWS. But there was this incredible cloud boom that I think lasted all the way through 2021, and led to this incredible growth in our cloud era. And so it's been actually an incredible time to be in this industry. But I do believe, like most people, I think AI is going to be even bigger, and we're just getting started. And it is creating a massive disruption. And I was just in a founder lunch with Krish and Wade and a bunch of people. And last week I was at a Salesforce Ventures CEO Summit. And now it's funny, like everyone's like, oh, Godard, you're a legacy company. I'm like, I don't think we're that old. We're about 10 years old. But all of a sudden, anyone that was built pre-ChatGPT 3.5, which we were, all of a sudden it's like, wow, you're kind of at risk of being legacy. And I think this is happening faster than ever before. And certainly for us, we were probably built kind of like a Web 2.0 website with the assumption that most people are going to search on Google and discover things that way. And of course, now that's being disrupted really rapidly. People are saying even Google may be disrupted. Obviously, Google is innovating with AI and AI summaries, but the world is changing really quickly. And so I think for us, and probably everyone, we really have to innovate faster. And as a founder, it's kind of fun, but scary at the same time, because if we don't become AI first, I do think we risk being kind of an irrelevant legacy company. And I think the VCs all see this, certainly our VC investors. We have investors like Excel and IVP and others here in the Valley, but I think all they're investing on, this says 37%, although talking to our investors, I think in enterprise tech, if you're not AI first, they're probably not investing. And so I think that's where all the money's flowing, because an incredible growth, companies like Cursor, I think it was just in the news today, they've gone like 0 to 200 million. So my board also always says, why aren't you doing that? And apparently they're going to raise a $10 billion valuation, and they're not very old. So obviously tremendous boom here around AI. And I think with AI, people expect even more ROI. And I think that's the power of these tools like Cursor. Your engineer can start using it, and they become more productive immediately. So they're getting immediate ROI from a lot of these AI tools. And so I think now 60% of buyers are also expecting faster ROI from everyone. And we're also seeing this on G2, where there's just so much innovation. And we've added 39 AI categories since the launch of ChatGPT. And like 3 years ago, nobody cared about vector databases, and all of a sudden, it's essential infrastructure. And obviously, so many innovations being launched, both by startups as well as by the incumbent vendors. And no surprise, also the reviews are fastest growing now in AI, because buyers also don't know what AI to trust, because everyone is marketing AI magic. But I think buyers are saying they don't know which one's real, which one's really going to drive the outcome, which one's really going to drive the ROI. And so G2, we're trying to provide insight on that, so you can make better choices and figure out which AI tools will deliver the outcomes, will deliver the ROI that you want. And we're seeing rapid growth in many categories, of course, core LLMs, and that's, I think, still a very dynamic category. Announcements like DeepSeek, kind of coming out of nowhere, where everyone probably thought that companies like ChatGPT had run away with it, and all of a sudden with DeepSeek, they're proving, wow, maybe there's certainly a much more efficient way to do these LLMs. And that's a very exciting, fast-growing category. Obviously, no surprise, AI chatbots or agents, AI content creation, AI image generators, AI code generation. They're all booming, obviously, in the market, as well as in terms of their G2 listings and momentum. And we do our best software awards, and congrats again, Chargebee, one of the top 50 products. And we're seeing a lot of AI-first software products that are getting a ton of user love, because they do offer ROI pretty much out of the box, whether it's for coding assistance, for writing, so many amazing use cases. And also we see a lot of the incumbents, like HubSpot with innovations like Agent AI, or Salesforce with Agentforce. All the incumbents are innovating as well. And vendors like Rippling adding AI features across their HR and finance products. And I think one of the big changes for G2, and probably for most of you, if you're using SEO as a channel, is that AI search is really changing. And I think actually the biggest short-term impact for us, and probably most of you that leverage SEO in your marketing, is these AI summaries. And I think across the board, there's about 25% fewer click-throughs now to any website. And that's both because a lot of times, and this is probably true for you as a user, you do look at the AI overview, it gives you the answer you want. That's a beautiful thing. You don't have to go do more research. And obviously, Google is cluttering the top of the page with more and more Google services. So fewer and fewer people are actually scrolling down and finding an organic link. And I think one of the opportunities, though, I think Google and others are starting to do attribution at times, and it's still inconsistent. Perplexity probably does more attribution. And I think all these LLM AI search tools are experimenting. They're providing various levels of attribution and click-through opportunity. In this case, you can see, if you ask about AI chatbot software, here's an attribution for G2 and some other sites. So at times you'll get attribution and click-through, but a lot of times you also won't. And so it's really changing buyer discovery. But buyers, I think a lot of times are just also asking to solve a business problem through the LLM versus searching for specific software. And this might even be a dated query, AI chatbot software. Well, that's a traditional Google query. A more future query might be like, how do I better handle my help desk cases? How do I scale support more efficiently? And I think that's the beauty of LLMs, right? You can just ask about the business problem you're trying to solve. Whereas with traditional Google, we all, I think, had to learn you can only do 2 or 3 word queries, and you have to kind of stitch them together. Now with LLMs, you just ask what you really want to know. And I think also for software buyers, that means they're going to start more at the business problem level. And versus, and they don't even have to know what the category of software is. They can just have a conversation with the AI that guides them to the right types of solutions and the right products. And I think one of the things we're also doing now is we're also starting to optimize, some people calling it GEO, generative AI optimization, which is kind of the new version of SEO, because as buyers go more and more to LLMs, now if you're marketing a product through digital channels, you want to figure out what's influencing the answers. And as we all know, ChatGPT, all the LLMs, they train on data they've crawled from the internet. And but there are interesting new tools. We use one called Profound. It's a startup that just measures LLM influence for any brand and can kind of show you how is your brand showing up in LLMs versus your competition. who's showing up most often, what are the most common LLM queries relevant to your products and services. And so we're doubling down on that and also reformatting our content so it better matches these longer LLM queries. And I think you can even use AI to generate answers to those queries so that you're more likely to show up and be a bigger influencer on the LLM platforms. But I think this is a really new, interesting, exciting field. But I think it's critical if you're selling your products digitally that you start to optimize for these LLM channels and the type of content that they're looking for. And I think one big question also my board asks, I ask myself, like, how quickly is this shift going to happen? I think if you're here in the Valley or in San Francisco, everyone's like, I never do Google search anymore. I only use Perplexity, or I only use Claude, or whatever your favorite AI search is. I actually have I think 4 of them on my browser just to learn. I've got premium version of every one of them, and I just try, probably like a lot of you, just try different ones to see which ones are producing better answers for certain types of queries. But what's interesting, and I actually used Perplexity deep research. And as you know, AI is a prediction engine of the consensus. And it's interesting, I think in some ways this change, while it's going to be very rapid, in some ways it may even be, in the broader world, beyond tech, it may be slower than we think sometimes. And the consensus prediction here, and I think it's probably too slow, but this consensus prediction is that 72% of Google will still own 72% of search in 2030. And of course, they're incorporating AI, so we'll see. Nobody really knows. But I think it also means for us, like, SEO is not dead yet. A lot of people still use it, but it'll be interesting to see how fast this actually happens. And now, how do we navigate this AI-driven future? And I think I've tried to boil it down, and we're still learning here every day, but at least how we're thinking about it at G2 and probably for any digital or any software company, how do you win in the age of AI? And I mentioned this, I think, one, making sure your product is discoverable for buyers now, also when they're doing LLM-driven or AI-driven search. Secondly, as you saw, buyers want more and more self-service, and AI is a great way to enable this. And I think you've all heard about AI SDRs that can answer all of your prospects' questions in real time. And so I think buyers want that, right? They want to self-serve, and I think AI assistants, AI agents are a great way to help your buyers walk further and further down the buying journey. Third is to, assuming you provide a software or digital product, that you embed AI to streamline your user interface and your workflows. And I think a lot of people are saying software will be totally reimagined. For example, maybe you never have to log into a CRM system again, because the CRM system will add agents, and your sales reps, and I was in CRM software for 20 years, and we made CPQ software, but no, sales reps tend to like using any kind of CRM software, any kind of CPQ software. They want to be out there selling. And the beauty with AI, the sales reps can just do the selling. And I think AI tools, like Gong are already doing this, where they record every call. And we use Gong at G2, and our CRO happens to like MEDPIC as a sales methodology. And sales reps always hated filling in MEDPIC. You can have like 10 required fields in Salesforce or whatever. But now the AI just fills in MEDPIC for them. The AI does their forecast for them. And actually, last quarter, our AI forecast, I think, was, we are booking many millions every quarter, but it was like within 100,000. It was actually more accurate than our sales leaders' forecast. And so that means probably soon, sales reps won't have to fill in forecasts anymore. They can just be out there selling, doing calls, emails. AI is listening to all of that data and pulling out the structured data you need. And I think that'll probably happen for every type of system. And I think the fourth key is to deliver faster ROI. Customers expect it. AI makes it easier. And you can obviously provide better implementation guidance with AI, better support. And I think people are having success, oftentimes getting up to 90% of support cases fully resolved with AI. And so you can deliver better customer success. And I think what what everyone was talking about here was also outcome-based pricing. And also, I think it was interesting, the case study from Wade, what he's doing at Zapier, but where they actually lowered the fixed subscription pricing, added more of a usage value component. And I thought it was actually brilliant. I want to do the same thing at G2, where there's less fixed cost to the customer, but then gets them to do more adoption, get them more value, and then you can monetize the upside on the usage But I think to do that, obviously, you need a flexible pricing and packaging system to support that. And one of my entrepreneur idols certainly is Mark Benioff. He acquired the second company we built, SteelBrick, now Salesforce, CPQ, and Revenue Cloud. But I think also what he's saying about AI is what breathes life into AI is the data. And I think you saw that also in ChargeBee's roadmap and vision, where ChargeBee obviously has a ton of data on your customers, on their spending behavior, on their churn risk. And that's one of the beautiful things now, and I think ChargeBee is introducing those features where you can then use AI to leverage your data. And actually, what was interesting, the roadmap is, people usually don't think of billing systems as growth systems. But now as ChargeBee is saying, based on that data you have in your billing systems, you can actually make growth recommendations and upsell recommendations and prompt your customers. And so I think it's just one great example of how data can be used to power AI and kind of reimagine workflows in a whole new way. And we also think this is what is the opportunity for G2. We have been around for a while, but also the advantage we have, we are now working with 3,600 customers. We have millions of reviews. We have a lot of data. And if we apply AI to it in a smart way, we can deliver more value for software buyers and for software sellers, and use this shift to AI to actually accelerate the value we deliver to our users and to grow faster. And we have reimagined also our G2 vision. We used to say we want to be the #1 trusted place to go for software. Now we're saying is, hey, software buyers, they probably won't all come to g2.com anymore. They may not go to any website anymore. They may just be in the LLMs. They may be on partner sites like AWS Marketplace, like Azure Marketplace. And so we also have a strategy now to take our G2 data everywhere. So we want to provide the trusted data, but then let the buyer discover that data wherever they want to be. And so we do have 25 partners now, including AWS, including Azure, where we power reviews and content on their marketplaces. We're also working with Ramp to get our data into their billing system. And we don't have a formal commercial partnership yet with the LLMs, but as you saw, we're also a massive influencer of the LLM answers. And we think that's the future, is that if we can be the most trusted data source, then no matter where the buyer's going, we can help them make the right buying decision. And we are transforming, and I think it is that sometimes I am jealous. Like last week at the Salesforce Ventures Summit, I met all these AI first founders who only started 2 years ago, and they're all like, I only have 3 employees. I'm doing 200 million in revenue, and I have 500 agents I programmed, and I only spend 2 minutes programming because it's vibe programming. But we started before that, and probably like many of you, and so I think it's an opportunity, but also a challenge, right, to also get our team to reimagine our products and embed AI where it makes sense for the user. We do also are doubling down on our AI research, because I think every software buyer in the world now is wondering what AI really works. And we hired Tim Sanders. He's our AI research leader, so aiming to provide new insights on AI. And of course, we're applying it internally, trying to apply it to every workflow. And I mentioned that example with Gong, where it now does our forecasting for us, does our MedPick for us, obviously connected to our Salesforce, but freeing up sales reps' time with AI picking up tasks like call logging, forecasting, opportunity updates that they no longer have to do manually. And ChargeBee, and you heard this in the roadmap, but it was exciting. We also see it in the reviews. And I think that's the vision that Krish and ChargeBee have to really, and I think you're seeing it come to life, to really be a monetization platform for this age of AI. And I think one of the most common trends that also Wade talked about is how do you do more consumption, more usage-based pricing? Because I think fewer and fewer companies are willing to pay fixed prices just for seats. And frankly, if AI works, the number of seats in most companies may go down. And so I think the trend is towards usage-based or outcome-based pricing. And you can also see it in the ChargeBee reviews. Like here's a great example. One of the reviewers of ChargeBee says, flexible for virtually any pricing model with an excellent support team. We charge for traffic and cloud resource consumption, so it's necessary to automate billing based on known usages. And so I think this is just one great example of how ChargeBee can also help you transform in this age of AI to more flexible, more outcome-based pricing that your customers likely expect. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you. And I'll be around the rest of the day, so hopefully to connect more with you. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I always welcome that. You do have to add my email, godard@g2.com. But hope to connect with many of you live today and in the future. And thank you for being here with us.